welcome everybody to episode 2 of Tea with Mother and Me. We both got tea, both having salon tea today. So if you didn't notice, if you missed our update, we've decided to change the name to Tea with Mother and Me. Just felt better, kind of as the podcast has evolved, and as my mom and I are now busy podcasting together more, just felt better. And also my previous podcast had like 30 something episodes, but they weren't all on the same YouTube channel. So it was kind of a little bit, it was like 31, but there were actually only like 6 listed there or something. So we just decided to kind of do a fresh start and go with Tea with Mother and Me. I will start off. As you can see, it's obviously still quite cold here in Scotland. My mom just got back. So if you missed it, our previous episode was just kind of like a compilation videos of some videos from myself and some videos from my mom, of just stuff that we did, because for the first half of February I was in South Africa, and then for the second half my mom was in South Africa. So how are you finding the change in the weather from coming back? You just got back last week.
It was definitely really noticeable, because I think the first day when we went for a walk it was
-5 or something.
Yeah, -5 feels like -8. So yeah, it was quite different. But I quite like the cold. It's quite exhilarating. Yeah. So it was nice going for a walk in the cold. But you have to have your beanies on and your scarves. Yes. And I have a thing wrapped around my face with my rosacea. So
yeah. Okay. So as many of you know, last year husband and I bought quite an old house. It's a stone house, so it's pretty cold, which is why we're still wearing warm stuff inside. But yeah, we actually have the fire on in this room, so it's not too cold. It takes the edge off. So we'll start with some finished objects. So this time we're actually going to do it a little bit differently. We're trying out something, so let us know in the comments if you like it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about things, and then I will insert afterwards, I'll video edit and I'll insert the photos so that you can see kind of more close up, and the camera won't be like constantly struggling to refocus. So we're just going to try that out and let us know if you like it. So the first thing I have are some socks for my Aunt Kathy. So my mom actually commissioned these. My mom's my patron of my sock knitting for the family. So this is the second pair of socks that I've knit for my Aunt Kathy. And these ones I knit out of James C. Brett in their Funny Feets, which is actually a combination of, so it's 75%, 25% as usual, so the 25 is nylon, but the 75 is actually broken up. So I think it's 50% wool, 25% bamboo, and 25% nylon. So that's actually something I've never knit with before, is with a little bit of bamboo in it. And it's not, when I've knit with bamboo before, I've knit with like a cotton bamboo blend, and that feels very different. This almost feels exactly like a normal sock wool, although I would actually say that it was slightly softer, slightly lighter.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah. So I think those will, I know bamboo socks that you buy, like commercially made ones, are very popular. And I've never really, the only socks I've made that haven't been wool have been cotton ones, and I don't really enjoy them myself personally. I just find they don't hug as tight to your foot. They kind of stretch a bit more. They don't have like as much elasticity in them, and they just feel a little bit colder and almost harder. Like, I just didn't really enjoy them. So I kind of in my mind had presumed that knitting like pure bamboo socks would be kind of the same. So it's nice that this is like a wool bamboo blend, and it's very nice. I mean, I haven't worn the socks because they're not for me, but knitting with them, they feel really nice. So hopefully this will be good.
Great.
And they got a lot of love on Instagram. When I posted them, people really enjoyed them. So yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. Thank you for knitting.
You're welcome. I love knitting socks. So the second thing I have, well, it's actually a group of things, which I was going through my yarn stash, because I have a humongous yarn stash, and I realized that quite a lot of it is this yarn called, well, from Aldi, called Baby Yarn. And what had happened is I'd been ordering some online to try and test them out and kind of knit up swatches or crochet up swatches, and I didn't realize when I ordered, because the price was so cheap, I thought it was one ball, but it was a whole packet of them. So it came with like 4 or 5 of them. So I landed up with a lot of them. And I did some research online, and I believe that it's actually known as chenille yarn. So it's basically like almost like a cotton center sort of chain with fluffy polyester fibers put in through the middle. Or I'm not even sure if it's actually cotton in the middle, or if it's another just like a polyester thread, because it says it's 100% polyester, which is, you know, not great for the environment, although it is very soft and fluffy. So it's very tempting. Yeah. So I decided that I just need to work out a whole lot of it, make any patterns that I thought I would want to use it for, and then the rest I'm just going to donate, either gift away to friends or donate it. So the first thing I made was actually this plushie, which is like a kind of like a bean, and also kind of, I gave it cat ears, so I call it my cat bean. But basically it's just a crocheted like toy, which I really love these toys which you can buy, which are called Squishmallows. I have a very small collection of them. It's not too big. I've just got like 3 or 4 of them. But they're so soft. They're super, super soft. They're obviously intended for children, but I really love them, and I find them really comforting. I have like a small one that I keep in my handbag, so if I'm in a really stressful situation, I can just pet it in my handbag. So I thought, well, this yarn is also really super soft. Maybe I could crochet myself a big one. And I have a lot of stuffing that my sister-in-law actually gave to me. She had bought some for a craft project, but it was like, it was like shredded pillows. I don't know how to explain it. So it's just like this big black bag full of like stuffing and bits of cotton pillow lining sort of thing. And so I just used that and stuffed it, and so it's super cuddly, and I really like it. So that was made out, well, as you'll see the picture, but it's got the kind of pink colours on the one half and then like a greeny colour on the other. So I was quite happy with that. And then I decided to make what I'm actually wearing now, which is this cowl. And it's super warm and super soft, and just, it's really lovely. And I do actually still have some of this colour in green and in blue and in like a beige colour. And I'm like sort of tempted to make some more because it is really cozy and warm. As you'll notice, everything I've made out of this has been crocheted, because when I've done my swatches with knitting, I think it's to do with that really thin core and then the fluffy exterior, the tension is just really weird. It's either way too dense, or it looks fine until you stretch it and then it gets like these gaps and holes in it, and I just find the crocheting with it is much preferable for myself, at least. I don't know if you have anything to say about it. Oh, you did knit a shawl out of a similar...
That's what I was thinking, that blue, that first thing that I knitted the scarf first.
I'll put a picture in,
yeah. In that shawl, I knitted.
And that was garter stitch.
Yeah, that, I was happy with it, but then again, I'm probably not too fussy, because this is the beginning of my journey.
Yes,
yarn.
Yeah. But I think it does suit garter stitch better than when my swatches weren't stock in it, and that I just didn't like. But I your shawl looked really nice, so probably garter stitch. If you did want to knit it, garter stitch is better. Yeah, and then...
No, I was going to say, I've actually dyed mine now, so it doesn't look the same colour.
I didn't know you dyed it.
While you were away.
Because last time I inserted some pictures of some stuff you dyed.
Yes, I didn't show you the...
You didn't show... She's been keeping secrets from me. Oh, that's lovely. So you must show me, and I'll insert some pictures.
Yeah, I will.
What colour... Did you dye it with turmeric?
Yes, I've dyed it with turmeric.
So does it come out like a green colour?
It's gone... So the white went like a little lightish colour yellow, and then, well, I mean, people will see it on the thing,
yeah.
And then the lighter blue is green. It's just sort of, it looks still bluish, but it's got
like a yellow tint to it now.
Yeah, it looks like if you take a photo and you put a tint on it, it looks like that.
Oh.
So I'm very happy.
Oh, I'm excited to see it now. So then another thing that I made with the chenille yarn is I made some little like fidget balls or stress balls. I don't know what you want to call them, but they're basically just little spheres out of the same yarn. And I think I made one big one and 2 small ones. And they're really nice to just like squish and play with. And I actually attached 2 to my bag. So yeah, they're really nice. I do like them a lot, and also it makes such a great texture, especially like crocheted. You can kind of like, I've got quite long nails, so I can like stick my nails in between the stitches, or just rub my fingers over it, or you can like squish it. It's just a really nice like sort of tactile thing. So yeah, I really like those. And then the final thing I made with the chenille yarn is I took the kind of beigey off-white and I made some covers for my chair. So I have like, it's typically called like a gaming chair. It's basically like this fancy sort of like office chair that so the first thing I did was I made some covers for the armrests, because all the armrests, I don't know, they're quite hard, I think. I don't know why people would make hard armrests, but they do, and it's not uncommon for this sort of chair. And I tend to, like, when I'm busy or when I'm thinking, I'll like rest my elbow and my head like on it, so then I've quite a pointy elbow, it's like digging into the armrest, which is quite uncomfortable. So I decided, or sometimes I'm just sitting in my chair like watching a YouTube video and I'm knitting, and then I have like both my elbows like sat into it. It's quite uncomfortable. So I just made some sort of like covers for that, and what I did is I made them so they would sort of like fit, but then I also threaded some cotton yarn through the bottom, kind of cinched it closed so they'll stay on.
Good idea.
Thank you. And then there's actually like a detachable neck pillow as well, which I made a little cover for that as well, so it also kind of matches, because it also had like this big text across it for the brand, which I mean is not really a problem, but it's just I prefer having just like the kind of more simple cover, and of course it's really soft and cozy. So yeah, that's everything I made with the chenille yarn. Yeah. Do you have any ideas of what like other ideas that people could make with chenille yarn? Because it's quite popular at the moment, but it's not something that I've seen a lot of patterns for.
Oh. I don't know offhand. Nothing springs to mind.
Yeah.
Although I suppose, like, I was thinking, I'm sort of quite interested in those granny squares, and if one crocheted the different colours.
Oh yes.
I've seen like waistcoats.
Oh yes.
I don't know, maybe something like that. Or
Yeah.
I don't know how a hat. You know those hats they make?
Like a bucket hat.
Yes. It doesn't be too floppy.
But it would be glorious. It would be like a winter bucket hat.
Yes. I mean, imagine making it with the black chenille. You know how the typical granny, and make like almost like a top hat, but it would be floppy, so it was sort of almost like a doctor's use hat.
Yeah, if you made it really long, like oh, that's quite a cute idea. I like that. Although I don't have time. So many commitments. Like I shouldn't be. You're making me inspired, but I shouldn't be.
Maybe I could try.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Okay. And let's see. I always surprise myself every time I write down a little list of all my finished objects, and I always surprise myself with how much I've finished in a month. So we are on to, oh yes, this was one which I did actually kind of work quite hard to finish, was a shawl for my mother-in-law. So while I went to Cape Town, we went to a yarn store. This is a recap for people who missed this. We went to a yarn store and they sell hand-dyed yarn, which is absolutely lovely. And my mother-in-law purchased some for me to knit her a shawl, which, like, it might sound weird that people keep buying yarn for me to knit stuff for them, but like I love knitting so much and I have so many of my own things. I just don't need any more accessories and stuff. I actually need to go through and try and clear out. But so I absolutely love it when people sponsor me to knit for them. I love it because then I can have more happy knitting time. Just as a quick interlude, I thought I'd tell you about this little hat. It's got little panda ears on it. This hat is one of the very first hats that I crocheted. It might even be the very first hat that I ever crocheted, and I used to wear it at university because I was in university when I learned to crochet, so I was actually really young. I actually meant to ask you, I always tell people I was 5, but I don't actually remember the exact age that when I asked you and Granny to teach me to knit. I think it was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, I can't actually remember the exact time.
I think it was about 5. So my mother and my grandmother also had a tea with mother and me thing going. And they would always meet up for tea and have a chat and knit. And so obviously, if this is what you see all the time as a child, like it's very normal, children want to do what their parents are doing. So I asked them to teach me to knit, and I just knit like, I can remember Dad was still reading, this is like family history now, Dad was still reading Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit to my sister and I. And I remember at one point I was busy knitting then. So I was still, I must have been like 5 or 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And yes, crazy family reading Lord of the Rings when I was 5. But yeah, I remember I was struggling a bit with dropping stitches at the time, and I just knit like a scarf that was like that long and like that wide. And then I did lots of other little like yarny things like that, where you have like a spool with, I think it's called spool knitting. Yeah. So I did things like that, but I didn't really pick up back with the knitting until I was in high school, and I decided to knit my husband a scarf. That's when I really started knitting. But I learned to knit when I was really young, because I only learned to crochet when I was at university, and I used to wear this hat to my exams. And I remember my lecturers who were invigilating always used to have very amused faces when I walked in with my little hat with my ears.
That's so normal to me.
Because I've been wearing it for so long. But I just thought of that because, like I was saying, I have so many things that I've knitted for myself that I like. I'm very happy to knit for other people.
You could almost have like a pictorial history of when you started knitting and all the things you've done.
I should actually. This is completely derailed.
Sorry.
No. I'm very happy. So I was thinking I should actually because I'm thinking of getting rid of some of the stuff I've made. I must make sure that I've got photos of it to kind of have a history of what I have done. I might put it on my blog and my.
I have another idea for you, but you want me to tell you now?
I don't mind.
You could do a podcast of all your.
Go through.
Yes, we could try and see if it's worth being a podcast.
We'll film something and you may or may not see it. I like that. So going back, hello Jack. I knit this shawl for my mother-in-law. Are you gonna come up? He can't decide whose lap to go on. Come on, Jack. Okay, so I knit this shawl for my mother-in-law, and I had originally, in my mind, I was basing it off this pattern called the Simple Shawl. But when someone asked me, I had mentioned I'd made some modifications to it, and when someone asked me what they were and I wrote them all up, I realized that it's basically a whole new pattern. Like, I'm basically only increasing at the same ratio that she does, but everything else is pretty much different. So I've typed it up and everything. It hasn't been test knit, but I've typed it up because another one of my aunts asked if she could knit it, so I typed it up. But that will be coming as a future pattern because it is quite different from the original pattern, and it's something it's actually the second time I've used the same sort of design and actually done the same modifications for my mother-in-law. So that will probably be called the Heather shawl because that's my mother-in-law's name. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out, and as you'll see, it actually looks like it's all one skein of yarn, but it's actually 2 skeins of yarn. And so this yarn is a 100% superwash merino in a 4-ply. So it's called a sock yarn, although I personally wouldn't use 100% superwash merino for socks. But it's a 4-ply, and this was hand dyed by a dyer in South Africa called Miss Motte. And the 2 colors, the first color, which is like at the top of the shawl, that's the lighter color, is called abalone. And then the second color that comes at the bottom is called Nymphea capensis, which is the name of like a type of water lily.
It's beautiful.
The colorway or the lily?
No, the colorway
yes.
and the shawl.
Thank you. Excuse me, sip of tea. So yeah, so basically what I did is that I knit with the first color, and then I started striping them together for a while, and then I knit just with the second color. But because the colors are so similar, um, well, I wouldn't say they're so similar, but like the the Nymphea capensis definitely has colors in it that are the same as what is in abalone, and so with the stripes they almost blend together, that it almost looks like it was just one very large skein. A number of people have asked me, oh, was that just the way that the ball knit up? And I was like, no, it's actually two different ones. But I noticed when I was striping them together, I was like, wow, these are so similar, which is really interesting to me, because when I do striping for myself, or if I work with multiple colors for myself, I tend to, as you can see, you choose quite contrasting colors. But this yarn, obviously my mother-in-law chose for herself, and it's beautiful. Even though it's not something I would have chosen to do, it is really nice. So yes, that is the shawl for my mother-in-law. Then I finished some scrappy socks for my husband. And these were also very much loved on Instagram. So basically, kind of similar idea to what I've been doing previously, where I just choose like a bunch of yarns that I think are going to work together. So this time, like for my mother's socks, we did like oranges and pinks and peaches and browns and those sort of colors. For this one, I chose predominantly blues and grays. There are a few sort of like multicolored bits in there, but they're predominantly blues and grays. And they're just leftovers from other socks that I've knit in the past for other people, and they were just scraps, and so I knit them up. But husband is quite particular about the matching, so although he didn't mind them being scrappy and like the order of the colors was all just random, the one sock must match the other sock. So I did them in the same order. They obviously look slightly different in certain places, because if a yarn is self-striping and the color repeats are quite long, then you can land up where it's not going to be exactly the same on both socks. But I was using the same yarn in the same places for both socks. And just out of interest for the color, I can see the exposure keeps changing. Just out of interest, I do when the color has like quite a lot of different colors in it, or it's striping, then I will do 10 rounds for each color. But if the color is just a plain solid color or just a semi-tonal, then I will just do 5 rounds for each color. So that's how I do my striping.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I kind of got that from the lady who inspired me to knit those sort of socks. Is on Instagram, she is Odd Sock House, and you can also find her on Etsy. I'll try and remember to link that below. She does sell kits for knitting scrappy socks and gloves and that sort of thing, and I believe they come with a pattern as well. But I just looked on her Instagram and kind of looked at some of her tutorials, and I saw that that's what she did. She did 5 if it was just one color, and 10 if it was multiple. So I haven't bought one of her kits, but I believe they're very popular. I have too many scraps to justify buying a kit. But yes, so those were some scrappy socks for my husband. And just to mention, I started those in January. But then because we were flying to Cape Town and I was bringing some sock projects with me, I decided not to bring those because they're made out of scraps. I had, I don't know, maybe like 20 different little balls of yarn, and I didn't want to bring them with me. I certainly wasn't going to knit on the airplane, and I didn't want to bring them with me and then lose some of them or whatever. So I usually, when I knit those, I have this like grey basket. It's about that deep. In the UK you can just get them at like most sort of like home store sort of places. And so I just keep all of them in there, and then I just pick and use out of that. So I decided to leave that at home. And then once I got home, I had a bunch of other projects that had kind of taken priority. So that's why those only got finished like in the beginning of March. And then I also finished some socks for my mom, which are some summer socks, which is actually her first pair of short summer socks.
I haven't seen them in
real life. They're actually on the table. And so my mom, and actually I think my husband helped my mom choose the colours as well. I think so.
I don't remember.
I think so. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's going to be a surprise.
Yeah. So those were also sort of knit out of scraps as well, in the sense that one of the yarns had been used to do helical striping with another yarn for socks for, I think that was was that for Auntie Jackie? No, Sue. They were for Sue.
Yes.
They were for Sue. And so when I do helical striping, I've noticed that it uses, if I do contrast colors and then a helical stripe, it tends to use less than 50 grams. So I had quite a bit left over of the sock yarn. So I call it a scrap, but it's not really a true scrap because it was like plenty to knit them. So they're not stripy. But my mum and I looked through like what I had left over that would work to make a summer pair of socks, which is the nice thing about the summer socks is that they do use a lot less. I've weighed husbands recently and they use 51 grams. So if you're not knitting them all in one color, if you're knitting them, I actually still need to weigh yours, but if you're knitting them with a contrast, I don't do, usually for long socks I do a contrast heel, cuff and toe, but for the summer socks I just do a contrast heel and toe. And so yeah, it doesn't use that much, so it's a good way to use up scraps when you've got like quite a significant amount left. So yeah, so I finished those, and those I did with a roll top. So I just did an inch of stockinette, and that just naturally forms like a roll top at the top. And those are the sort of short socks that my husband likes best.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just in case people are wondering why people want to wear woolen socks in summer, it just doesn't feel hot. It's just so comfortable in your shoes if you're going walking.
Yeah.
There's no friction on your feet. It's really, I would recommend that people should have summer socks.
Thank you.
Because I wore my winter socks now when I went to South Africa, and it was basically the end of summer, and it was absolutely fine.
Yeah. So I've actually done completely gone blank. So I've actually previously, I think it's actually the video before this video, I did a video on wearing wool socks in summer.
Oh.
So it's all about that, and I go really into depth about the different, more like almost scientific reasons why wearing wool socks in summer is a good idea. But I'm glad to have you also.
So was that a Instagram video?
No.
Oh.
So I did both a blog post and a YouTube video.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that.
That's all right. But yeah, exactly as my mom said, they really are, at least in my experience and my mom's experience and my husband's experience, they really are great to wear in summer. And you can have them long or short, but often if you're wearing shorts or skirts or something, it is nice to have a bit of a shorter, just like aesthetically, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are my mom's first summer socks, so I'm sure there will be more to come. And then my final finished object is a mesh scarf for my husband. So he actually used to wear a mesh scarf that belonged to my father-in-law, and I believe that they were like kind of standard issue for the army. You still get them there. If you just Google like military mesh scarf, it's a thing.
Oh.
It's the military ones are usually actually polyester and usually a finer mesh. But my husband asked if I could make something similar, and so he actually chose the yarn when we went to the yarn store. This one, it was made out of Lily Rose, and it was the Wemmick sock base, and I will have to find my notes somewhere as to which colorway it was, because we actually gifted the tag to my aunt, because my aunt's daughters' names are Lily and Rose, so it just was very sweet, so we decided to give them the card. So I don't actually have the name on me right now, but I think it's like Captain's Papers or something. I will have to have a look. But yeah, so that's everything for my finished objects. So do you have any finished objects?
No. I don't.
Do you have any works in progress?
No. Well, actually I do. I have a secret project on the go.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's it was my 60th in January, and it's my husband's 60th in May. And so when we go back for the wedding celebration for our daughter.
In case you don't know, my sister's having her wedding celebration in South Africa in May. So we're all going back there, and poor Jack and Salty are going to have to find somewhere else to stay while we're gone. But yes, we are going back in May.
That's right. And so we're also arranging a 60th birthday party, which is going to have a 70s theme. But I'm making something which is a secret.
A surprise for everyone there.
So,
and we know some of you watch the podcast.
Yeah. So that's my work in progress, I guess.
Yes, that's very exciting, and I'm hoping to help a little bit when I can.
So nice, yeah.
Get nice and arty. So I have a few works in progress, which are knitting wise. So I have started some socks for my father-in-law, and I'm hoping to have them done. I mean, they're going to be done really soon, like, if I'm honest with myself. They're going to be done soon, but they need to be done by Easter, because my mother-in-law is coming to visit, and she's going to be able to take them back to South Africa for me, because my parents-in-law live in South Africa. And so I need to get them done so that she can take them across. And it will also mean that if they do fit, I can make more in the future and maybe have some more done by May. Maybe not, we'll see. It depends on how long they take me. But no, they shouldn't take too long. So these socks I am knitting out of West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, and the main colour for the sock is the winter icicle colour, and the contrast heels, cuffs and toes are the blueberry bonbon, which is a very cute name. And I actually picked blueberry bonbon because I looked at a number of the West Yorkshire Spinners yarns that I have not knit with yet, and I think I can use the blueberry bonbon for quite a few of them for the contrast heels, cuffs and toes. So if these do fit, then maybe I will purchase some more and use that same yarn as the contrast.
That's ingenious.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so, and these, I'm doing them with a slightly wider ankle and then narrowing for the foot, so I'm kind of changing stitch counts as well. And because I'm a little bit worried about fit, what I'm going to do, because obviously he's not here to try them on, what I'm going to do is I'm knitting the leg in 3x1 ribbing. No? 2x2? I think I'm doing 3x1 ribbing. Yes, I'm doing 3x1 ribbing. So the cuff is still 2x2, and then the rest of the leg is in 3x1. And that will just give it a little bit more elasticity. So if it is a tiny bit too big, it will hold onto the leg better. So that's the plan. And then one of my other projects is I've finally started a jumper for my sister-in-law. She's actually been asking this for like almost a year. But it's not all my fault. We've taken a while to pin down exactly what she wants. But I've actually typed up the pattern. So I've made up a pattern for her and I've typed it up, and we've ordered the yarn, I've done the swatch. So I've actually just cast on the bottom of the back. So it's not very much done, but I have started. And she does live in the UK, so I don't have to worry about getting it done by a specific time. Like, it'll just be done when it's done. But yeah, I'm quite happy to be working on that. And that is being knit with Drops Merino, and it's in the sage. I think no, it's not the sage. I can't remember. It's a green color. Yeah, so I'm doing that for her. And then the final thing I'm working on at the moment is still working on this jumper spin for my husband. So if you don't remember, we bought a jumper's quantity of fiber that was blended. It's called, well, he named it. Then we take the blues. So, Wingham Woolworths allows you to choose. I'm pretty sure it's. I better check that. I'm pretty sure it's Wingham Woolworths that allow you to choose your. You can get a blend of yarn and you can choose the colors that you want in that blend. And so he chose it, he named it, and then we take the blues. And so I've been spinning that up, and then eventually I'll have spun up enough to knit him a jumper, and then I'll be knitting him a jumper.
It's a long project.
Yes, I mean, my spinning is not that slow, but I've not been spinning like consistently all the time because I've been finishing the shawl for my mother-in-law and working on the socks for my father-in-law, and now working on the jersey for my sister-in-law. So yeah, so I have a lot of projects on the go, and I have a lot like planned. So like, obviously I need to knit this jumper for my husband. And I've got a number of socks that I've promised to some friends, so I need to work on those. And then obviously I have a lot of sock scraps, so I could work on those. I've got full skeins of sock yarn that I purchased for myself that I should probably knit for myself. I also want to knit myself a scarf, or yeah, I called it a skinny scarf. Like I showed it last time that like yours was like a peachy color with brown flecks in it.
Yeah.
So I really want to knit one of those for myself, but I've been struggling to find the perfect yarn that I want to knit it out of, because I really want it to be like a pink, blue and purple. But everything I've found so far is either just pink and blue, or purple and blue, or pink and purple. Or if it does have all of those colours, it's also got other colours in it as well. So I'm going to have to keep an eye out for what I'm looking for. But that is something I want to do. And then I also, like I mentioned kind of earlier in the video, I want to go through, I've got like a huge drawer full of accessories that I've knit in the past. And a lot of them were like test knits for things that I was designing, and I just chose like random yarn that would work, and it's not really colours that I would wear. And so I'm thinking of donating those and then remaking something that I would actually wear. And finally, I don't know when this is going to happen, I have 2 jumpers that my grandmother knit. I don't know, that white one and that pink one. The pink one was for you.
Yeah.
Yes. The white one was just hers.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they've landed up with me. And I'd really love to remake them again in, well, partially colours that I would wear, but it's not that I don't wear them. I do wear them, but I'm also like, to me they're like heirlooms. They're like so precious to me. And some of them are like wearing a bit thin in certain places. I've had to darn it a couple of times. So I should really just make them again. Yeah. And I might, no, I don't know if I'd write up a pattern. I think, because you said you've actually got patterns for them.
Yeah, the pink one would definitely have a pattern for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I must try and find that pattern, and then I can share the progress of following that pattern.
Yeah.
Because that's a vintage pattern.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So you actually reminded me, I do have a works in progress.
Ooh. Yeah.
It's I don't know what you would call it. I'm not rejecting it.
It's in hibernation.
That's a good way of putting it. In actual fact, I think it's got something to do with, it's that long skinny scarf. Remember?
Oh yes.
Yes, and I was knitting one that I could sort of tie up in my hair, and the colours work up. They look a little bit like tiger stripes, which is, I don't know whether I'm like that excited about.
It would go with this shawl though.
It would.
Because it's like orange and like peachy and charcoal and brown, yeah.
But I realised I get really bored of knitting short rows. So I pick it up, I put it down, I pick it up, I put it down.
So you like things with long rows?
Yes, I do.
I'm the opposite. I don't like the rows to be too short, and that's just frustrating. But like when I knit those shawls, the heather shawl, by the time I get to the end rows and there's like 400 or something stitches, I'm just like, this needs to end now. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
I don't even know where it is.
So if you were going to knit a long scarf, but narrow, you should knit it long ways.
Yes.
That's so interesting. So is that like permanent hibernation, considering frogging?
No, I really should finish it. I think I'm probably about halfway, or maybe just over halfway. And maybe because I knitted up until I left for South Africa. And then I was like, oh, thank goodness. I don't have to look at that again for a while. But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I could pick it up and just finish it.
So I find there's some projects which just, you hate knitting them or crocheting them so much that you should just pull them out. Like, there's just no point. Or at least for myself. Like, there's some things where I'm just like, you know what, I knit because I love it. If I'm not loving it, just stop doing it. But there are certain projects, especially if it's a gift for someone else, but even if it's not, even if it's for yourself, sometimes you're actually so close to finished and you do want, that's also the other thing. The other thing is to question with yourself, do you want the finished object? Because if you do want the finished object, often it is worth just pushing through and finishing it. But if you don't want the finished object and you're not enjoying it, then why are you doing it?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, do you have any other plans or anything?
Well, long-term plan, I guess. I'm looking forward to moving into our new house because it's got a space for garden and it's actually got a greenhouse. So I think you mentioned in the other podcast that I did some dyeing.
Yes.
And so I've been dabbling with plant dyes, which are not very stable, but yeah, it's nice to experiment. So I'm really keen to grow some indigo, and and you've got in Scotland, you've got to grow it in a greenhouse.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I want to try experimenting dyeing wool with the yeah. And
I've done a little bit. I did thistles.
Oh wow! What colour does that come out? Like a brown?
Well, so I didn't pre-mordant mine.
Oh.
And so mine came out a very pale green. It's like almost the same colour as the natural yarn, but like a slight green tinge.
Yes.
And then I also did some with tea, and that came out like a brown colour. And then I did some with rose hips and brambleberries, and that also came out brown.
Oh. Yeah, so I suppose one's got to do a lot of experimenting.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I once was thinking of growing, what was that? Was it woad?
Woad, yes.
Yeah, that's red.
No.
Isn't
Woad
it?
is blue.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of something else that comes out red and you use the roots for it. I can't remember what it is.
Madder.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's madder.
Yeah. So anyway, now that I'm going to have some land, I want to try growing some things. Not to eat, but to dye.
That'll be exciting. That'll be very exciting, and I'm sure if and when that happens, we'll do some updates.
Yeah.
I'm kind of focusing on like trying to get all the gift knitting done as quickly as possible. Oh, something I do have one last thing to share. So I've got some pattern releases. So last month I released my pattern for the knitted cable skirt, and so excuse me. So yeah, I released that, and it's been test knitted. A couple of the sizes have been test knitted. So if you want to knit one of the sizes that it hasn't been test knit, then please let me know. Like any questions or comments or suggestions you have. Like I'm very happy to give you any support or anything that you need. But that's available on my PayHip, and it's also linked to Ravelry. So if you do use Ravelry, then you can link to it, and like you'll have be able to use it as part of your project page. And then my plan is for the end of this month to release my Morag shawl. I've got one for each of my mothers. My Morag shawl is going to be released at the end of this month. And so I'll do like a little promo video, I think next week. When I release it, then I've got a little video showing the shawl. But yeah, so that's basically just a shawl that's knit flat. You can knit it. We've got two samples, one that's knit all in one colour and one that's knit in two colours. The samples were knit in a cotton bamboo blend, but I'm pretty sure you could knit it up in a wool as well, and it would look really nice. And so yeah, and it's pretty simple. There's nothing too crazy, just kind of your normal like increases, decreases, knit, pull, and some yarn overs, and that's it.
Yeah.
So you actually designed that pattern, yeah.
I started it. Did I bring it over here on holiday? That's right. And then was my hand sore? And then you finished it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my mom knit almost half of it, and then her hand started hurting, so I started knitting it for her, and then I kind of knit to the halfway point, and then on the second half I just copied as best as I could what she had done on the previous half. And then we both liked the shawl so much that we decided when I went to visit you in South Africa, then I brought I typed up I kind of read the pattern off of the scarf. So the original one might be slightly different to the second one because I kind of used it as my guide to write up a pattern, and then I kind of test knit that pattern with the second one I did, which I did in two colours for myself.
It's very nice. I like it with the
Two colours.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, that will be available at the end of this month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's everything we have. So I hope you enjoyed having a knitty time with us, talking about all our knitting and crochet and arty plans. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your month. And then we'll see you next month. Okay. Bye.
Bye.